All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's been a few weeks since we did the front suspension on the 91 OBS here. We're putting the full QA1 front end, control arms, coilovers, and now we are prepped out to do the rear 4-link conversion. Now, I'm super excited about this because I've never done one. It's gonna let us get way lower on the ground and it's gonna handle better. So first step, obviously, was to get the bed off. If you follow the channel, you've seen my procedure on how I do that. If you don't have a lift, just get your buddies. They're not that heavy. Go ahead and order you some bolts. Almost every time I end up cutting 1 or 2 bolts. These trucks are getting pretty old. So we bought the parts. It came with paper directions, but I went online to QA1 and I printed out some nice color directions. Until you actually get the bed off and see what you got to work with, it's kind of hard to visualize it, but now that I look at it, it's not that bad. We're gonna go ahead and get rid of this exhaust because we're not running that. We're going to drop the gas tank out of our way. Obviously, we're not going to run any of these shocks, any of these springs. We'll take the axle out and completely clean and paint it. The QA1 kit does come with a new rear diff cover. Just take this time to look where everything goes. You've got a bracket here in your leaf spring mount that holds your emergency brake cables. That probably gets replaced. Definitely going to want all this crap out of our way. We're going to go ahead and wire brush and Eastwood rust encapsulator all the frame first, so we get a nice clean work area. You can see somebody's already put some drop shackles in here, which didn't really help. This thing sat way up in the air. You can see just putting the coilovers in the front have dropped the front like 4 inches. So here we have so many projects going that I can afford to take the time and prep this out, even though we're not going to get to this today. I got a nice wire brush here, and my favorite product for lubrication and penetration is coil. This stuff is really good. Get it on Amazon. We're going to go ahead and take the time on the front end, go to every single suspension bolt. You can see these are really gnarly, and we're going to wire brush them, and then we're going to lube them all the way through the bushings here. We may end up just cutting the shackle bolts if they're too bad. All the shock bolts. We're just going to take a minute, prep this out. We're going to go ahead. We got a project over here in the paint booth. This F-150 needs a little bit of masking, and this is ready for the final coat of paint and clear. So we're going to prep this truck out, get it sitting and soaking, and then we're going to go paint today, and then tomorrow we will rip this bad boy apart. Well, like we said, we got on this the next day. Off camera, I went ahead and pulled the gas tank and the exhaust off because everybody's going to have a different setup there, and it's pretty self-explanatory. Did run into an issue with the e-brake cables, had to cut them. Whatever this adjustment setup here, it would not budge. I ended up cutting the e-brake cables, so we'll probably just cut them off right here at the backing plate just to not have them flapping around while we're trying to get that exhaust out. Sorry, while we're trying to get that rear end out. That way we can roll that nasty thing outside, strip the leaf springs off of it, get it all cleaned up and painted, and get that kick-ass QA1 rear cover put on it. While we get the frame all cleaned up, we've got to remove these bump stops and put our axle flip C-notch kit in there. So I'm going to cover this step by step. Nobody else has done that so far in any of the videos I've looked up. So it's going to take a little bit of time to get there, but you're at least going to see every step of the way. Okay, it's another day in the office because I don't think you'll be able to hear me in the shop. It's pouring rain. So 2 hurricanes and now we're flooding. Like, I don't understand what is happening with the world, but if you can hear me at all, we've got the frame completely cleaned. We got it wiped down with wax and grease remover. You can see that I've got a river running through the property over there. It's been pouring for like 4 hours straight this morning. I don't know what the deal is, but we're following the instructions step by step for you guys that want to do this on your own truck. Find a good spot. All right, so it says you can do it without removing the bed. Obviously, we've removed the bed. We're securely on jack stands. We've removed the drive shaft brake lines. We got rid of the axle. It wants us to cut the factory shock mounts from the axle, which are that and that, which we will do once we get to prepping out the axle. I'm not going to mess with the axle yet. Remove the 2 rivets holding the original bump stops to the frame. Ours were bolted in. Where these 2 bolt holes are here, we've already done that. And then the next step is to remove the rivets from the passenger side upper shock mount bracket from the frame and discard. Remove the rivets holding the front leaf spring hangers and discard. So we're going to have to remove this leaf spring hanger, this shock mount, and the matching leaf spring hanger here, because we're going to be picking up these 2 holes for what look like our new 4-link brackets. Something like these. So it looks like this will go there. And it fits the frame really nice. That's probably where it goes. So make a bunch of noise, throw a bunch of sparks. It's so loud in here you probably can't hear me anyway, so I'll put this over here before I lose it. A lot of different ways to do this depending on what tools you have. I like to cut an X in the head of the rivet here with a cutoff wheel and then knock it out with a punch. See, we've got 2 rivets there, 2 rivets there. It's not any fun, but it has to be done. This one has what? A rivet here, a rivet there, and a rivet there. So, good times. Well, it's still pouring rain outside, but as you can see, we've got all of our leaf spring brackets removed. Everything's nice and clean. There. We got our forward shock mount removed. Doesn't mention that, and I may end up going ahead and removing it if it looks weird, but that was a rough morning. I hate them rivets, but you get good at it after a while. So I'm gonna go ahead and go in and eat lunch, and then we'll spread down some paper and we'll get that frame completely coated next in Eastwood Rust Encapsulator. Okay, we got the whole thing brushed with this matte rust encapsulator. I like the matte finish because usually everything you bolt to it is going to be gloss. And it really gives you a nice contrast. That's it for now. We'll let this stuff cure, and then we'll get into grabbing those hard parts and start getting stuff bolted on this frame. There is a ton of hardware, but I did go through all this, lay everything out, and I did find the one marked frame notch. So these is your frame notch hardware. So I'm still letting this rust encapsulator cure, so we're not doing anything yet, but that's going to be our next step. This is a little frowny face we ended up with when we used this cardboard template. So the arrow points forward and you're picking up the old bump stop mounts. Gives you that right there, and then you just fold this that way and go do it over there, same thing. So we'll cut this piece out and we'll drill those 2 holes. So we piloted these 2 holes first with like a 3/16 bit, and then we stepped up to the 1/2 inch bit here. But now that I've got 2 bolts secure and tight, now I trust all my marks to mount all these other bolts, not forgetting the ones on the bottom. We got plenty of bolts in the bag there. And there we go, that's one side done. Not too difficult. Make sure you're using step bits and make sure your axle center line is on your marks, and I don't see how you can mess that up. The big telltale is right here where the frame takes a gentle curve. If your bracket fits right there, you probably did it pretty good. You know, I hate to do it, but I just gotta dime out QA1 a little bit. There is a lot of parts. We have parts down here, we got parts on the table, we've got a ton of parts here on the countertop like we showed you, all those parts. Well, we got here to the torque arm assembly, and this female rod end right here is not in the kit, and it doesn't have an arrow going to it to let me know what part number I need. So I'm just gonna have to reach out to them with our order number and our figure number and all that. Looks like they gave us an extra mail because I have put everything together as far as the torque arm ends, the brace arm ends, the panhard bar ends, the main, what do you call these? The main bar ends, everything else is here and perfect, and there's multiple setups of each, but not bad. 200 or 300 parts, one little error. So we're gonna have to pause the project. I'm gonna go ahead and get the other frame notch installed. We're probably gonna get the forward links, forward, what are those? Trailing arm, there we go. For the forward trailing arm mounts installed and a few other things. And then when we get that part in, we'll go ahead and get that rest of that assembly. Oh, you know what? We can go ahead and start on the axle. That's what we're gonna do. The axle is gross. See where the old axle mounts were. We'll get these cut off, get this brake lines all out of our way, and we'll start cleaning this thing up and get it prepped out for the new axle mounts. The directions tell you to take these mounting plates, set them here on the axle pads, mark those, drill those holes up to 5/8. Those are going to be where did I set it? I set my parts down somewhere. Maybe I didn't bring them. These bad boys. So these are your axle mounts slash coil over shock mounts. These are going to go here in your new mounting position. Want to plug this vent hole. Make sure you keep that plugged. You're going to spin this over upside down, you know, and clean it up, and then all your axle lube will drip out of there and get all over the place, and it stinks and it's flammable. So just a couple of prep steps and we'll get this thing rocking. Look at that. Man, that thing's looking looking racy. I like it. So all we really did was wire brush and clean the rear axle. I did a coat of satin and then a coat of gloss paint for durability. we bolted on our new axle mounts. You know you got it assembled correctly if the panhard bar mount is on the inside of the axle towards the center line of the truck on the passenger side. The directions tell you what to torque these through. We just got them tight. I don't want to torque them until the axle is in place. Right now it's kind of hard to hold, and it's still kind of tacky from being painted. It's a little hot and humid out still. This paint will probably take at least overnight to cure up. But so the next step, hi baby, hey, get out of there. The next step was to install the rear diff cover. We had another little issue there. The hardware kit that comes for the 10 bolt, these bolts are way too long. You can see how far they went in before they just stopped. So, hey, trying to film here. We had to reuse the factory hardware, no big deal. I just masked off the cover and painted it all gloss. It's still wet, that's why it's so shiny. You can see some remnants of the orange RTV I used, which I actually used exactly what they said in the directions, but all I had was the high heat version, the optimum version. So I used that. I figured that's, I mean, it's got to be better, right? We're gonna let that all cure up today. It's kind of chilly today. And then we'll be ready to put a rear end right there instead of a hairy dog. Start letting this thing take shape. I still have to cut that one out. Oh, I don't want to do that. Especially with you guys around. You guys will not let me work today, will you? Hey, talking to you. Hey, hey, talking to you. All right. Let's get these dogs in the house. The driver's side is just about a repeat from the passenger side. You will have to add this emergency brake cable guide bracket to the front here. Again, you're picking up the 2 rear bolts of the old leaf spring mount. Drilling these 2 mounts here. You will have to remove your wiring harness bolt. There's one sticking out right here that won't allow this to sit flush. But we went ahead and removed it anyway so we can clean it all up and paint it. Well, that's a lot of work. This is quite a bit involved in this obviously complete suspension design change. I'm tired. I'm gonna take a break. We are at a pivotal point here, literally, pivotal, see what I did there. We're ready to put the rear end in the truck. We got the diff cover on. We got all of our bolts on. We finally got this other axle notch put in. What a bear. Lots of bolts, lots of drilling. May have ruined my DeWalt drill drilling all this up, but price of doing business, right? So it doesn't look like I'm gonna be able just to roll it under there. I'm probably gonna have to jack the rear end up, move the jack stands, roll it in place. We are up to trailing arm install. So I have not done this yet. It says 21.5 inch starting length from center to center. We have everything assembled here. So I will get these measured. Gonna leave these loose, both ends, until we figure out. Oh, whoa, whoa, freaking acorns, scared me to death. Till we get these sorted out in the truck with tires on at ride height, and we want these parallel to the ground along with the torque arm. All right, so the directions are pretty good. We're just about perfect in the center here. Right here, 21.5. God dang, every time. If you've got an oak tree above your metal roof shop, all day long I'm getting scared to death here. My life is being shortened by minutes. Let's do the second one here. So this one, dang, I got that perfect without even trying. All right, let's get these in. All right, Couple things when you're doing this: make sure your grease fitting is pointed down, because if you grease the chassis, you're going to be doing it from underneath the truck with the bed on. It'd suck to have to get in here. The directions say start in the center hole, because again, you're going to be pushing for this arm to be level at ride height, so you have plenty of adjustment up and down. Then you've got these really trick bushings to go in the eyelet. For the rear. Bring you in so you can... Yeah. The motorcycle jack is key. We're also going into the center hole on this bracket. And everything's going to be kind of out of alignment until that torque arm gets set up. We're in a little bit better configuration now. I've got a 4x4 under the front of the axle there. All our bolts are in loose. Everything at this point is still loose. Even these are not torqued yet. I want to make sure the axle tube is straight there. Like I said, we'll be pushing for these bars to be perfectly vertical once we're at ride height. We have to deal with the triangulation of the torque arm next. That's going to be the next part. I do want to bring up a couple of things. I'm not really a huge fan of all the spacers and everything they're using, but there's an 1/8 inch spacer on either side of this shock. Like so, you have to put in, don't forget those, don't lose those. Those are tiny. I don't know why they just wouldn't give you a thing that fits in there instead of having to run spacers, but whatever. So those are in. You can see the next step is going to be the torque arm cross member. So that is the biggest, heaviest piece of the whole kit. This will basically triangulate the frame for the forward pickup of the torque arm. So very important that this goes in the correct place. So we're going to take a break because I'm tired. Been on this truck for like 3 days, but lots of drilling, lots of cutting. Be prepared for a few days worth of work here. This is not just a simple bolt in. This is fully modifying the frame, drilling, gosh, 30 or 40 holes. And I'm sure I'm not done. So anywho, it's not terribly difficult, but it's not exactly a bolt-in. Pretty happy with everything so far. So I'm gonna take, like I said, a break. And for you, it'll just be a couple seconds and we'll get into that torque arm reinforcement bracket. Just when you thought you were done drilling holes, there's more holes. So the cross member, which is what they're calling this piece right here, you can see we've got a large and a small hole here. It picks those up perfectly. We'll have to drill the 4 mounting holes. It came with these really cool frame saddles that will saddle there and give us anchor nuts for that. We also had to remove this exhaust bracket for clearance right there. It was bolted to the frame right here. Didn't allow this to sit flush. This has to be flush against the bottom of the frame and the outside. So there's 4 more holes to drill there. And then somewhere up here on the frame, we're gonna have to drill 2 more holes for the brace on the front of the torque arm. This bracket right here will go over to the frame also. So not done drilling holes. Getting tired of drilling holes. I've probably put 40 holes in this frame, but we have shaved a ton of weight. I mean, look at this pile of crap here. We got lots of scrap and it looks super cool so far. There's the torque arm in all its glory. That's the piece we're missing. You can see the directions say to keep that red link perpendicular. We'll drill the 2 holes to mount that bracket there. We're also about perfectly centered at that point. We're gonna get under here and drill the rest of the holes for the brace, the rest of the holes for the bracket, the brace up here, all at once, because it's gonna be really gross under there, and I just wanna do that one time, but I wanna mock everything up and make sure it works. Gonna go ahead and mock up the panhard bar and the brace in the back here. That way we'll think we'll have everything where we need it, and we'll set their initial conditions as far as rod end spacers and turns and all that. Can't see. Where'd it go? Okay, well, it took a little finagling, but everything is installed. Brace bar, panhard bar, everything is loose. Don't want to tighten anything until we're at right height. Looks pretty cool. Still waiting on the part for the front linkage to finally set that up and set pinion angle anyway, and then we'll set our bar links. Everything's nice and pretty still. Coilovers look good. I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm gonna go ahead and work on something else for a couple days till I get that part in, and then we'll wrap this up. We'll throw some wheels on it, get it outside, get the stance set. So far so good. I like it so far. A lot of drilling, but other than that, pretty nice kit. What are you eating? You can't be trusted. Okay, it's been a couple days. Good news, I've got the part. QA1 sent me this funky female rod end. This is called a Endura alloy rod end. This is the one that goes at the forward mount here for the torque arm. The missing parts, we couldn't move this truck, so now what we can do is we could get wheels on it, get it the right height set, get all the bars, get it all set up, get pinion angle set, all that. But I'm probably gonna end this video before we get to that. I'm gonna end this video as an installation video. So if there's enough comments and enough interest, we'll come readdress a video and show you guys how to set it up. So anyway, I'm gonna get these last few pieces in and we'll close this video out. Here we're dealing with the forward link rod of the torque arm. The directions here say thread the female rod end onto the bushing as far as possible. But let's see how short this gets. As short as possible is all the way in. We'll see what that does to our pinion angle. We got some help. Whoa! Anyway, so that went pretty smooth. This is fully adjustable. Everything is nice and loose. I'm really apprehensive to tighten anything until this is on its wheels on the ground and I can set pinion angle, set bar angles. Just like I've said many times before, this bar needs to be as vertical, this bar needs to be as horizontal as possible kind of like that one is over there. But that really wraps up the install. We got all of our mount bolts in down there. There's still a light on down there. Huh, that's where my light went. I think we are going to have to get drop spindles. I just don't think this is low enough. We could easily go down another 2 to 3 inches with a drop spindle in the front. And you can see by the adjustment here, I can go down, gosh, 5 inches here. This is a really good looking install. Again, we haven't done any measurements to set the axle side to side or forward or backward or any of that yet. Like I said, you really want to get in your stance, get your ride height set, and then start making adjustments to get all this stuff situated. All in all, this was a really fun project. Happy we got to do it. Really cool, really high quality stuff. Everything is kind of overbuilt. Typical of QA1. Looks really good. I think I would put this in my own truck. I can't wait to get it out on the road and try it out and see what it feels like. But really happy so far. This video was about the rear end, but the previous video we showed the front end here. I'll give you a quick glimpse of that. Tubular uppers, full coilovers, tubular lowers. Okay, well, I hope I showed you how to do that. I hope you learned something, or you decided whether you want that or not. If we didn't cover something, or if you got a question, just put it down in the comments below. I get to those at least weekly. But thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon on another project.